All right. Hey, everybody. It is Thursday night. It's June 16th. My name is Dee Korchin, and I'm here with a lot of other health coaches on our team that are here for our client coach connection. So I see lots of you guys signing in. This is exciting. It's fun. I know it's summer and you're busy, so we're going to be real respectful of your time. And I'm going to immediately turn it over to Vicki Feldman. Vicki is an executive director. And which means she's helping a lot of people and several coaches on their journeys to health. And Vicki's got a great background in behavioral science and working with people. So I'll turn it over to Vicki, and you can go ahead and take our topic. You want me to unmute you?
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, good evening, everybody. So Dee asked me to talk a little bit about falling off the wagon or going off plan. And what I thought I would start out with tonight was talking a little bit, just briefly reiterating what our plan is and why it works so well. So with Take Shape for Life, the program puts you into a fat burn state. And when you're a fat burn state is also known as a controlled mild dietary ketosis, not to be confused with ketoacidosis. And what happens is typically our bodies use carbohydrate as our main fuel source. That is the preferred fuel source for our energy. And typically, as most Americans, we tend to have excess carbs. And when they're not used, they're stored. And that's where we all tend to get into a little bit of trouble. Because we lead more sedentary lives, we're sitting at computers, we're moving less, we're grabbing more things on the go, and the balance is out of whack. So when we go on the 5 and 1, we actually we get balanced with our carb protein. And what happens is we shift our primary fuel source from the carbohydrates to start using our fat stores. And that is what a lot of us have on reserve. And it's a very effective form of energy that we can all use pretty readily. So that is the benefit of that. That is what the fat burning state is. So what are the benefits of fat burning? You're going to have increased energy and you're going to be less hungry. And that is what also enables for those of us that get into that fat burn state, that's why people tend to feel so good. And it's something that we can do for quite a long period of time. So then what happens when we go in and out of fat burn? That's where things can get a little bit dicey. So once you get out of fat burn, your body starts using carbohydrates again for fuel. And then what happens is your body says, oh, carbohydrates, you get more hungry because your body thinks it has to replenish all of those glycogen stores for fuel because now you've shifted back from a fat burning state into using your carbohydrates for fuel. So what do you do? What do you do when that happens? I think we're all human. We're all faced with situations where we may go off plan. So if you fall out of fat burn for a reason, the best thing you can do is start working to get right back on plan. And the reason for that is I always think of this, and if you look at Dr. A's Habits of Health, where he has the charts, to me that visual, I always think about a roller coaster. So the typical American diet, you eat something, your blood sugar goes up, your insulin production goes up to bring that blood sugar down. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. You've got this big roller coaster, this up, down, up, down. You come down, you're more hungry, you eat again, and it's like a boomerang effect. So when we're on the 5 and 1, that becomes like the baby roll, like the kiddie roller coaster, right? The hills are not as steep. The blood sugars are more in check. The insulin levels come down. And even if you go off plan and let's say you've got that one giant roller coaster hill, it doesn't have to shoot out the rest of your day to be more roller coaster hills. If you can get right back on plan and you minimize and you get back into that balanced eating, you're going to have more success because you're going to immediately go back into calming down that whole up-down effect. So how do we do that? A lot of it, I think, has to do with how we think. What we tell ourselves, more importantly. Dr. Anderson talks a lot about that stop, challenge, choose. I know I've seen a few people post on the Facebook group that they've used it, and I can't remember who exactly it was, but somebody talked about going into Sam's Club and walking out saying, normally I would have done, I would have gotten the pizza and the Coke, but I made a choice. I stopped. Is that really what I want? Is that going to get me in the direction I want to be? and made a decision, and was really proud of herself for making that decision. And I saw a lot of people responded to that. And sometimes we need that affirmation, which I think is what's so powerful about groups like this. We can easily self-sabotage. Sometimes it's a matter of figuring out what's the trigger, what affected me there. What was it? Emotional? Was it being in a situation? Was it social? I've had clients tell me before, I was invited out to a Mexican restaurant and I chose not to go because I knew it was not going to be a good situation. They chose not to put themselves in that situation where they were going to be in a tempted state. Sometimes it's emotional, and it's not necessarily negative emotions. Sometimes it's celebration. In our culture, a lot of times celebration is always around food. Sometimes we're bored. Sometimes we're stressed. We have fatigue. We have tension. We don't get enough sleep. Sometimes it's walking by the wrong place at the wrong time, like walking by a bakery and you're hungry, which then brings me to the last thing, which is physiological. Our program, we focus on eating every 2 to 3 hours, and there's a reason for that. Myself personally, and as I know a lot of other people, if you miss a meal, when you go back to that next meal, you're extra hungry. A lot of times we will have more, we will go off plan because we don't feel like we have a lot of self-control in terms of our portion control. So going back to the way that we think, a lot of times we have this all or nothing mentality. I cheated on a meal, so my entire day is blown. I always say, if you get a flat tire, you're going to jump out and slash your other 3 tires. You have a flat, so you fix the flat, you put on a spare, and you go along your way. And I think if we think about the way we make choices, a lot of times it is that all or nothing mentality. A lot of times I've blown the meal till I've blown the day till I've blown the week, I'll start over on Monday. So if you're always thinking that here comes another Monday, that's a great way to kind of put yourself in check and think about the way you actually think about your behavior. One of the things I think is important too is to practice some self-compassion. If the things that you tell yourself versus the things you might say to a friend, maybe you'd gone off plan, if you treat yourself with the same kind of compassion that you might treat a friend and realize that you are human and that it's just about getting back on track. And, the whole diet mentality versus the lifestyle, a lifestyle is not something you go on or off of. It's something that you live every day of your life. And I think in the process of growth, in the process of making changes, we have to treat them just like that, as changes. I think that a lot of times it's really easy to tell ourselves that we failed. Here's another thing. Well, we failed another day. We didn't stay in plan another day, or whatever it is. Again, that self-talk. And I think reframing that as failure is actually an essential part of success, because failure is feedback for yourself. You can reframe that attitude for yourself. And that if you didn't meet your goal today, there's tomorrow, there's the end of the day. Set a new completion date for yourself. Dee and I were talking earlier about a call that was on the Health Games about goal setting, writing down your goals, creating a framework for yourself that is something that you can visualize. If you've got a Fitbit and you go on every day and you look at your stairs walked or your miles walked or your calories burned, that's data that you're giving yourself. Create your own data. I saw a great line that said, write your goals in ink and your deadlines in pencil. Give yourself the ability to recreate your own deadline, but don't lose sight of your goal. And really the last thing that I wanted to mention is that, X causes Y, and then you want to repeat X, right? If you go for a walk and you feel really good, you moved yourself in a positive direction, you moved your body, you've got endorphins going on, you feel really good about yourself, then chances are the next day you're going to go for a walk again. You will keep up a behavior that makes you feel good. It keeps you motivated. We've got biological systems in place that reinforce those kinds of behaviors. But the problem or the difficulty or the challenge, again, how you want to look at it, is the glass half empty or half full, is that we're not going to wake up tomorrow and 20 pounds are going to be gone. So we're looking to feel good about something that's in the distance. So how do you set yourself up so that you have rewards now for something that you want in the future? So my challenge is that it's okay to be motivated by an outcome, but it's more helpful to figure out why that outcome motivates you. And if you can figure out why that outcome motivates you, and then you try and have little things along the way in that journey that satisfies you in terms of reaching that goal, you're going to create those little wins along the way. And for example, maybe that's, I'm going to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And that's your goal. You know, have that X amount of weight that you want to lose or get rid of. But if you think about creating those little wins along the way, as far as, again, the example of eating every 2 to 3 hours, that is a positive feedback goal that you can set for yourself now and that you can track daily. And it's, again, that win-win to think about. I don't know if anybody got on the call last night. There was a call about emotional eating as well, on the habits of health. And one of the great examples they gave was, if you have dinner every night and then you sit with your spouse and have a glass of wine, the goal in that interaction is not necessarily the glass of wine, which clearly would not be on plan, but it's the interaction with your spouse. It's talking about your day. It's creating that blocked off sense of intimacy with another person. But if you could still have that be the goal and still get that end result, but in a different route, then you have a different behavior. One of the habits that I picked up with my husband that, you know, we've been in maintenance now for 3 years is we walk our 3 dogs, and that's our kind of chatting about our day. And again, that is creating that bond and that time together, but also doing something that's healthy together. So again, thinking about small goals, thinking about measurable goals, thinking about substitution behaviors of things that you can put in place. If you can stop the behavior in the moment, what else can I do here that is going to immediately get me out of this situation? Because you may feel differently 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later about a choice you might have otherwise made. So I know I've got a very brief period of time. I feel like I regurgitated a lot of information. I hope that something resonated with somebody along the way here. I do have one of my clients. Kristen, are you on? I don't know if she can unmute. Can she unmute herself, Dee?
She should be able to. Kristen, if you're on the phone, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Kristen, are you on?
Do you know the last 4 digits of her phone number, Vicki? We'll see if she...
Hang on, and I will tell you.
Well, I think what Vicki brought up was some really good points, and I think so much of what she was pointing out to was alluding to was the fact it's our mindset, right, about what happened. Even if we use terminology like, oh, I cheated, oh, I was bad, you know, all that's a negative cycle that we get going in our head, and then we tend to want to like toss it out the window and toss a day out the window. And the reality is, it's just a choice. You made a choice that was not in line with your goals, and the most important decision is what Vicki was saying, your next decision. And rather than choosing to let it go on and on.
Mm-hmm. You can always make a new choice. And I think, like you're saying, Dee, that black and white thinking, the all or nothing, it's so easy to fall into that mindset and that trap. And I would just challenge you to reframe it in, you know, again, looking at that glass. Is it half empty? Is it half full? I think we all know people who are always going to be the ones with the rosy colored glasses looking at the positive side of things. And there's people that are always going to immediately go to that negative. And think about where you fall in that, you know, in that line. Kristen, are you on? It's 0093. She's on. I see her here. She's muted. I don't know how to unmute her though, Dee.
Is she on by video or on just by phone?
She's on phone.
00. Oh, I see her. Okay.
Can you unmute her?
Yeah. Kristen?
Hey, sorry.
We got you.
Yeah.
So Kristen is one of my clients, and she's been rocking this. And you know, she was talking about a couple of different times that she made a choice to go off plan. I thought it was just interesting because she made a choice to go off plan, and in her choice, she still was able to maintain some of her habits. So Kristen, would you share with everybody the conversation that we had about when you knew you were going off and and it was intentional, but some of the habits that you still maintained that kind of kept you tethered or connected?
Yeah, definitely. When, you know, it's mostly It's happened at least twice. I've been going on road trips. And so just eating 6 times a day, 2 to 3 hours really helps me just maintain my blood sugar and just feel normal. And then drinking all my water, that really helps me out. So even if I'm not eating on program food all the time, I still have the bars in my purse. So, you know, if it's been 2 or 3 hours, I'll make sure and eat a bar, even if my next meal isn't on program.
Okay. And then you also mentioned about getting back, like when you've made the decision, like if you've gone away for a weekend or something, and then when you came back and you got back on plan, do you want to talk about what that was like?
Yeah, you know, it's actually, I almost feel like it's really easy for me because I feel so much better on plan. When, you know, when you're off plan, your blood sugar does ups and downs, and just getting back on program just brings back a little bit of normalcy, and I just feel better. So it's really easy for me to get back on program.
Okay. Okay. Well, awesome. Is there anything else that you would advise or you would care to share that, because I know you've been at this a little while?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just planning. Going off program for me is always a plan. It's not just in the moment. I was telling Vicki that last night I was at a function and there was cake in front of me. And I could have very easily just gone off program and eaten the cake, but I was on program and I made the choice to be on program. And so it's definitely planning. So I think that's what kind of gets me through the day.
Yeah. And also, you know, Kristen, what was interesting about what you said to me earlier about that cake was you saw that cake and you said, I know what that looks like. I know what that tastes like. And I know what I feel like 2 hours later after I eat that cake, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would not be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that is great. Thank you, Kristen, for sharing. I mean, I think what I heard from you was the fact that, you know, when you're on a road trip or a vacation or whatever, that you're still implementing habits of health. It's not like you're abandoning health completely and it's a free-for-all. You're just choosing not to, not necessarily use all the meal replacements, and that's a-okay. And the fact that you get right back on plan. And at the end of the day, there'll always be cake, right? If you don't eat it today, there's always cake's not going away. So it'll always be there when you decide that you do want to have it. So I love that you talked about being a choice. So thank you guys for being on the call tonight for the client portion. We do this on the first and the third Thursday of every month. So that means our next call will be on Thursday, July 7th. And thank you for being connected, because connected clients are successful clients. So plugging into the community is the best thing you can do for yourself. We're going to roll right into our health coach training portion. This may be of interest to you. We're going to be talking with our coaches about how they support clients that exercise on a regular basis or that possibly need modifications to the plan, that we do have options available beyond the 5-in-1. So if you want to stay on, go ahead and stay connected. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Susan Giesland. Susan is also an executive director with our organization, coaching many clients. I can't talk here, but a lot of the people she deals with are fitness people. So I can't talk, so I'll turn it over to you, Susan.
Thanks, Dee. I appreciate the opportunity to talk tonight. Can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. Exercise in the 5-in-1. We had an interesting Habits of Health call back in the early May about this exact topic, and I'm really excited to share it with you because it's near and dear to my heart. I am a fitness instructor, and that's how I was introduced to Take Shape for Life through Dee. So I love to exercise. I love to work out. The 5-in-1, the basics on the 5-in-1, because we do have about 10 minutes, so I want to make sure I get through all of this. The basics on the 5-in-1, if you don't know this, we have about 72 grams of protein, 80 to 100 grams of carbohydrates for 800 to 1,000 calories in the day. So that particular part of the 5-in-1 withstands about 45 minutes of moderate to rigorous exercise. Now, what's moderate to rigorous? It's being able to speak a few sentences without having to breathe. So if you can carry on a long, lengthy conversation, or you can recite the Gettysburg Address, you're not in moderate to rigorous exercise. That would be more of a light intensity. So 45 minutes a day. Now, that can be difficult for your clients or yourself that take 60-minute workout classes. Most people do. So it's very important to counsel your clients about that. If you read the Quick Start Guide and the Habits of Health, it does say in there that if you currently exercise, it's very important to take your intensity level to about half the first couple of weeks you're on the program. If you don't currently exercise, then don't start until you're about 2 or 3 weeks into the program. That's the whole reason for that, is because of your body getting used to getting into a fat burning state, getting used to the 5-in-1 and the calorie restriction that's on the weight loss portion of the program. You don't want to do anything that kicks you out of fat burn. So that's what nutritional support suggests. I had a client who loved to exercise. She loved to take group fitness classes, and she walked her dog. So the first week she was on the program, she did great. She lost some weight. The second week on the program, she lost nothing. So I talked with her on one of our calls, and I said, well, what are you doing? How much are you exercising? She goes, well, I'm going to my group class, every day, 5 days a week, and I'm walking my dog an hour a day. I'm like, whoa, okay. Why don't we cut out the group class for the week? You can continue walking the dog, and let's see what happens. And she was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that. And sure enough, with cutting out that group class for the week, she got back into fat burning and she lost some weight. And she was amazed at that. So that's kind of where, if you have a client or yourself that loves to exercise, that's great. That's a habit of health. We want to encourage that. But the problem is when they're in the 5-in-1, we don't want to do anything that throws them out of fat burn. So what do you do if they love to exercise? If they're, like in my particular case, because I was a fitness instructor, I couldn't cut back on my intensity. So, and in fact, ironically enough, my first week on program, I taught 9 classes, which was like, oh my gosh, what happened? So one of the things that we have available to us, of course, is nutrition support. And that's a great, great tool to use. You can email them, you can call them. You can call them just yourself, or I suggest doing a 3-way call with your client, because your client learns from them and you learn from them for future clients that you can counsel. So see how they feel. First of all, if 5-in-1 is working and they're losing weight and they're feeling great and they have energy once they get into fat burn, after those first 3 or 4 days, great, fine. But kind of keep an eye on them. See how they're feeling. But if they're not feeling good, if they're fatigued, and if they're not losing weight, those are the 2 indicators that nutrition support says that may be an area where we need to help our clients a little bit more. I always suggest calling nutritional support and kind of talking with them. But we do have other options for our clients. And one of them, which is one that I tried, is the 5-in-1, but with additional protein. That could be something very simple that just gets them right back into fat burning, gives them what they need to stay in that fat burning state and they're losing weight. Another idea is what we call the 4-in-2. And you may know what that is. That would be 4 of the meal replacements and 2 lean and greens. I really do suggest, just if you haven't done this with nutritional support, but just touch base with them on that, because when you have 2 lean and greens, it doesn't necessarily mean that you double the healthy fats and you double the condiments. They were very, they said, listen, you need to be more conservative in that respect than liberal on that. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But one of the things that, so the 4-in-2, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Now, what if you have somebody that's like a marathon runner, training for a marathon? And I know Dee had a client like this, where she was not losing weight. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know that you did the 4-in-2 with her. It still wasn't working. And from what I remember, you did a 5-2-2. Does that sound right? Yeah. And that worked with that particular client based on her activity level. So that's why those weekly calls with your client, or even twice a week in that particular instance, is so good to support our clients, because we don't want them to get out of fat burn. We want them to be successful. We want them to feel good. We want them to have that energy that's in the fat burning state. So I would definitely recommend keeping in touch with them. Now, I don't know if you know about the optional health 3-in-3 program. That's for people that are already at their healthy weight. If you haven't tried the Take Shape for Life Optimal Health products, I highly recommend doing that. They are a little bigger in size than our meal replacements. They have more calories, more protein, and they are for kind of in that maintenance stage. It's for those people that are at their healthy weight, but it gives them an option to have a healthy snack. The bars and the shakes are great. We got to taste them all at one of our events. So I would highly recommend that. And then our tools that are available to us on our websites, our co-branded website of calculating our TEE, are excellent because that gives you an idea based on your gender, your weight, your age, your height, and your activity level, what your weekly caloric needs are once you get into a maintenance stage. So I highly recommend that. And then I'm trying to make sure we stay on time. But the other programs that are available that are not just 5-in-1 are the programs that we have for nursing moms, that we have for seniors, for teens, and for those people that are on diabetes. And we have program guides for all of those, and I highly recommend taking a look at them because you never know when you're going to have somebody like that comes into your life that you can help. But the questions to ask for your client that wants to exercise, that loves exercise, which is fantastic because that's a habit of health, is as they're on 5-in-1, just kind of ask them, how you feeling? Are you tired? And are you losing weight? Those are from what I've learned from nutrition support are really like the key for finding out from your clients, how they're doing. If they're not losing weight and they're really tired after they get in a fat burn, that's a key indicator that we might need to tweak their program. And I really recommend getting on a 3-way call with nutrition support because they have the knowledge and the expertise to do that. They also have a certified personal trainer on staff too, which can be helpful as well. So, and then the other places, the sources of support that you can look into is not only the Quick Start Guide on page 10 that talks about exercise and what to look for, but the Habits of Health chapters 13 through 16 are great resources for your clients on healthy movement, how to calculate not only their exercise expenditure, but what we call the NEAT, which is non-exercise. Things like taking the stairs and, other things like that. But those are really, really great chapters for helping your clients incorporate healthy movement into their everyday life. So, and again, the other thing I always suggest is make sure they check with their doctor first. That's just the number one thing with each client. Make sure that they always check with their doctor before they start the weight loss program. And if they ever have any issues, that's always good for them. To make sure their doctor knows that they're on this program so that they can be supported in that way as well. That's basically what all the different kinds of programs we have available. I know I ran through that really fast, but I want to make sure we stay on time. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything they can add would be great from all the other fitness instructors and coaches out there that have anything else they can add.
I think that was excellent, Susan. I mean, I think the point, some of the key points, especially if you're a newer coach, is I would say the majority of clients, I mean, let's face it, most people don't like to exercise. So more often than not, as our coaches, we want to be careful that if they're not avid exercisers, that once we get them through the first few weeks of going through fat burn and into 5-in-1, that we do want to coach them on starting to get movement into their lives. And that would be for the average person, it might be as simple as starting to walk, something of that nature. And what Susan is referring to is, the unique piece of the population that already is an avid exerciser, but they are struggling with weight to lose. And so important to evaluate what they're feeling for the reason she was talking about is we do want to keep them in fat burn. We want to protect their lean muscle tissue. We don't want their body to break down muscle, which kind of defeats why they're working out. So, and then I think the magic words that Susan said was working with nutrition support. We don't want you to feel at all that you have to kind of create any kind of plan for anybody or that it's your responsibility to fill out, what exactly is the right plan. Over time, you might gain experience and similar situations may start to repeat themselves. But especially in the beginning, just do a 3-way call with nutrition support. They'll ask them lots of questions and then together, you'll all three hear what the right plan is for them. So that's good. Vicki, Julie, anybody else, what can you offer from maybe your experience?
Well, as far as my experience, I mean, Susan's spot on. I think everybody is a little bit unique. I think, the extra protein. I've even had some people do a 4 and 2. I've done multiple 3-way calls with nutrition support. And, the key questions, like you mentioned, is how do you feel? Seeing if hunger and energy level to me are the two big red flags. If somebody's hungry and somebody is not doesn't have energy, something's not right. And sometimes it's as little as just adding in that extra protein, and that can be just a game changer. And clearly, if people don't feel good and they don't have energy, it's not going to be a plan that they want to stay on. So sometimes it's just individual. And I know with some people, I think Gloria's still on. I think she ended up having to do a 4, 2, and 1 movement again. So, Gloria, did you unmute?
Yeah, I did unmute, Vicki. Yeah, that's what I had to do. And I also wanted to really say a lot about nutrition support. They were wonderful to me when I was on the plan, on maintenance, but also working with my client. It's such a great tool that we have that I never found anywhere else.
That's true. And there are some other situations where a revision of a different version of the plan might be appropriate. And sometimes when somebody's getting really close down to their goal weight, or if they only have 10 to 15 pounds to lose, they don't have a lot of excess body fat. So if you ever have a situation where you put somebody on program or they're consistently losing weight and then it stops, the first thing is always to question, are they following the plan as designed? Make sure that there's no deviation there. And sometimes there is, so we have to go back and revisit the basics. But if you're ever in doubt, if somebody's not losing, this plan always works. It's science. So if they're not losing, get them with nutrition support. We'll find out what the modification needs to be for them. So we're really, really blessed that as coaches, we just need to connect our clients to the right resources to get the answers. All right, well, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. We're really enjoying the client coach connection calls. The attendance has been fantastic. We're getting over 20 people on the client call, and about 20 to 25 people are listening to the recordings as well. So that is great. So the more we can keep our clients connected, it's just going to help their success, and the same applies to us as coaches. So I know it's late. I'll let you guys get on with the rest of your night. But thanks for being on, and I'll post the recording in just a little bit. Bye.